For years, Roman Reigns was the guy WWE wanted us to cheer, but almost nobody did. Fans booed him out of arenas, called him a failed John Cena clone, and begged for someone else to take his spot. But after walking away from the ring to battle leukemia and later vanishing again during the pandemic, Roman Reigns would return as something no one expected: the most dominant champion of the modern era. His early career was defined by rejection. Despite headlining WrestleManias and being positioned as the face of WWE, fans never truly embraced him. His forced babyface run was met with relentless boos, chants for other wrestlers, and the feeling that WWE was pushing him down everyone's throat. But life outside the ring hit even harder. In 2018, Roman revealed his leukemia had returned, forcing him to surrender the Universal Championship and step away from wrestling at the height of his career. When he returned months later, the world would change again, this time because of the global pandemic. Out of concern for his health and his family, he chose to stay home, leaving fans wondering if the so-called big dog would ever reclaim his spot. All of this would take us to SummerSlam 2020. After a hard fight, The Fiend would defeat Braun Strowman for the Universal title, when all of a sudden, after 177 days away from our television screens, Roman Reigns returned with a message: wreck everyone and leave. He would come in and beat up on Bray Wyatt as well as Braun Strowman, looking like nothing we had seen before. He wasn't the babyface WWE tried to shove down our throats anymore. This was different. He kept on yelling about how this is his spot, how he runs the business. After many years, Roman Reigns finally felt dangerous. On the next episode of SmackDown, he was supposed to sign the contract for the match against Braun and Bray on Payback. Braun and Bray had signed it already. However, he wouldn't sign until the changes he wants are implemented. The changes they want. After this, the camera would pan out and reveal the advocate sitting beside him, Paul Heyman. You see, Paul Heyman has been known as one of the greatest heel managers up to this point, working with the likes of CM Punk and Brock Lesnar. So imagine the surprise everyone watching at the time felt when the most vanilla babyface of all time was revealed to be aligned with him. Roman seemed cool when he returned, but we still had no idea what was going to happen with him moving forward. Most even expected him to go back to the big dog babyface thing he was doing, but this cemented a change like nothing else could. From this point on, the whole universe knew we had something big on our hands, and going into Payback, he had still not signed the contract, but the show must go on. So Bray and Braun had an extremely hard-hitting bout, even breaking the ring in the process, when all of a sudden, with both of them lying on the ground, Roman Reigns would come out alongside Paul Heyman. He would sign the contract and would enter the match fresh. He would hit The Fiend with a low blow, completely cementing his heel turn. And he would win the Universal Championship, marking day one of his long reign. On the next episode of the SmackDown, we would finally get some explanation for what is going on. But before we get into their explanation, make sure to leave a like if you're enjoying this video so far. We are already working on part 2 of the video, so we can take Roman's early reign after all the dates. So if you are interested in that, please subscribe. Also, if you have any thoughts or have some ideas for future episodes, make sure to leave them below. Roman and Paul would come out and obliterate the WWE Universe with their promos. Roman would talk about how this was his title, this was his ring, how he had given everything to the business and yet nobody cares. Even when he had to fight off life-threatening illness, nobody cared about him. How as soon as he left, they destroyed the title. So he isn't doing this for them anymore. Not the fans, not the management. He is now doing this for family, for tradition, for legacy, and because he is the only one worthy of it. Nobody else can carry the weight of that championship he had carried through thick and thin. He alone was the one who could do it. And one of those reasons would come to be challenged pretty soon, as his next opponent would be the winner of the #1 Contenders Fatal 4-Way between Sheamus, Baron Corbin, Matt Riddle, and none other than his real-life cousin and someone he grew up with, Jey Uso. And my oh my, it would be the little cousin who he is gonna have to face at Clash of Champions for that title. Roman said he is doing this for family. Well, how is he going to react when it is his family that is stopping him from doing that? Simple. He knows that Jey is not ready to carry this burden. He must bring him down. In the build-up, they would look like good friends, but there was always this air of unease around them. Whether it be Jey teasing lifting the championship before ever winning it, or Roman stealing his win during a tag team match against Sheamus, something always seemed off. But they would always laugh it off, since they are as close as brothers after all. However, after every laugh, after every hug, something ominous was in the air, and nothing says that better than this face. Is this the face of a man who just hugged someone he loved? I wouldn't say so. And if you do believe that it is, I recommend visiting a therapist. On the Go Home episode of SmackDown before Clash of Champions, Roman had a couple of words he wanted to say to Jey. I would give you this title if I could, but the truth is, you wouldn't even know what to do with it. You don't understand the accountability, the responsibility of being on top. You don't understand the weight and the pressure from being the face of the WWE. Our family relies on me being the tribal chief. That's who I am. It ain't you. It will never be you. You will never take my place at the head of the table. This told us everything we needed to know about their current relationship and Roman's state of mind at this point. Roman was never going to take this easy. This is his proving ground. And just like it seemed, Jey was getting through to Roman with one of the greatest promos I have ever heard.
You know what they say when they see meals? Which one are you?
Roman blindsides him and beats up on Jey. He isn't a heartless monster, but he understands what he has to do. He loves his cousin, but he, and only he, knows the true weight of that title. Only he knows the true weight of being the tribal chief. Only he knows what it means to be a champion. And until you can turn your heart off and do absolutely anything to get that title off of him, you will never understand. This title isn't for those who try. This title isn't even for those who give it their all. This title is for those willing to do anything. And he is the only one truly willing to do so. During their match, Roman would be merciless. This isn't just for the title. This is for respect. This is for legacy. He would torture Jey, yelling at him to acknowledge him as the tribal chief. He would spear him over and over. He would yell into the camera. He would play with him like a beast plays with his prey. This wasn't about just winning the match. Even once Jey's twin brother Jimmy came out, Roman would beat up on Jey, not even trying to pin him. All he wanted was acknowledgement. He would take it so far that Jimmy had to throw in the towel, forfeiting the match for his own brother. But Roman didn't care. He would continue beating up on Jey until Jimmy came into the ring, covered Jey's body so that Roman couldn't hurt him anymore. And in fear, Jimmy would acknowledge Roman as the tribal chief. Next week, the two would meet on SmackDown yet again. And here, Roman would reveal how that night was the worst night of his life. How all he wanted to do was help Jey get that huge payday and help him provide for his family. All Jey had to do was acknowledge him. He was perplexed by the fact that Jey wasn't willing to do that. So he would offer him a rematch, but he would also quietly warn him that if he was in Jey's shoes, he wouldn't accept it, because this time the consequences will be even worse than before. Jey would accept, and their match was declared official. A Hell in a Cell I Quit match. At this stage, Roman will force Jey to acknowledge him. He even went so far as to put another stipulation on the match. If he loses, he will accept that he is not the tribal chief. However, if Jey loses, he will become his soldier. He will have to fall in line and work under direct control of the tribal chief. And if he doesn't, he will be kicked out of the family alongside his wife and children, as well as his brothers. And the match was brutal. Roman would beat up on Jey, placing the steel steps on his throat and yelling at him how he doesn't understand who the tribal chief is. And just as Roman was about to swing those same stairs right at the forehead of a lying Jey Uso, Jimmy would come in. He would plead with Roman to stop this nonsense, how this isn't how things have to be. He would remind him that they grew up together. And no matter what Roman was going through right now, they can fix it together. This seemed to have touched the heart of Roman Reigns, as he would sit down and visibly shake and start crying. Maybe there was a trace of the good old Roman in there. Maybe things really don't have to be this way. He would even say that he doesn't know who he even is anymore. He would even apologize. Jimmy, taking this as words of peace, would extend his hand. Finally, he had reached the heart of his cousin. Finally, things can go back to the way they were. His brother doesn't have to go through hell anymore, or so he thought. Roman would use this moment of weakness and start choking out Jimmy with the guillotine. Who knows, maybe Jimmy really did reach Roman's heart. Maybe Roman truly was sorry. But as we all know, being sorry doesn't mean admitting guilt. Roman resented the fact that he had to do this, but he knew he did. He was the only one able to raise the family to the very top and keep it there. And for him to do that, he had to get acknowledgement. Like any good warlord, he needed his soldiers to understand him and fear him. And Jey at this point had no other option but to acknowledge Roman as the head of the table, as the tribal chief. He couldn't watch his twin brother suffer because of him. So he did. He said, "I quit," and acknowledged Roman becoming his first soldier. After the match, Roman would climb up the stage where he would be greeted by wrestling royalty, the Hall of Famers, the Wild Samoans, his uncle and father, Afa and Sika, and most importantly, the two tribal chiefs of the past, the ones who could bestow the Ola Fala, the sign of the tribal chief, upon Roman. And so they did, making this the official start of the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. But as dominant as Roman was here, this was only the beginning. His reign of terror would stretch for years, and no one, not even legends, were safe from the tribal chief.